It began with a single sentence, one that rippled through the Outlander fandom like an unexpected storm. During a recent interview promoting one of his upcoming projects, Sam Heughan was asked a question that sounded simple enough. What's something from Outlander that you've never shared before? No one expected what came next. The audience went quiet. The interviewer froze, and within minutes, the internet was ablaze. Sam leaned forward, a faint, almost wistful smile touching his lips, and said softly, "There's something the Outlander director once told me to hide, and I did for years." At first, people laughed, assuming he was joking. Sam has always been fiercely protective of the Outlander legacy, respectful, loyal, and ever discreet about the story that made him a global name. But as he continued speaking, the tone shifted. This wasn't another playful behind-the-scenes anecdote. This was something deeper, something personal. Within hours, hashtags like Ash Sam Heughan Secret and Ash Outlander Truth were trending across Twitter and Instagram. Fans everywhere asked the same burning question. What was he hiding? Was it something about his on-screen chemistry with Katrina Balfe, a controversy buried in the scripts? Or was it something more emotional, something that revealed the man behind Jamie Fraser? To understand the weight of his words, you have to travel back to 2013, the very beginning. Sam was then a relatively unknown Scottish actor, stepping into the role of a lifetime. He had the look, the accent, and the charm, but the pressure was unlike anything he had ever faced. Playing Jamie Fraser wasn't just another acting job. It meant embodying a literary legend, adored by millions. Every gesture mattered. Every line carried the expectations of devoted readers. In those first few weeks of filming, the long days, emotional exhaustion and physical strain began to take their toll. Sam was giving everything, maybe too much. Then one afternoon, after an especially grueling scene in which Jamie breaks down completely, the director called him aside. What he said that day would stay with Sam for the next decade. Looking him straight in the eye, the director said quietly, "You can't let them see all of it." Confused, Sam asked what he meant. The director continued, "They need to see Jamie, not Sam. Whatever you feel, however much it hurts, hide that part. Keep it for yourself." Those words changed everything. From that moment on, Sam's entire approach to acting shifted. He never spoke about it publicly, not once, but those who worked with him noticed a difference. His focus became razor-sharp. He could pour his heart into a scene, make you believe he was breaking apart, and then, the instant the camera stopped, he'd vanish into silence. There was always something he held back. It wasn't ego. It wasn't detachment. It was protection for the story, for the illusion, and perhaps for himself. The director's advice hadn't been criticism. It was a lesson in mastery. If the audience sees your real pain, the director said, they stop believing in the character's pain. They start worrying about you instead. Sam understood, and he carried that message with him through every season. Fans began to notice the quiet restraint in his performances, that haunting intensity that made Jamie Fraser feel real, yet somehow untouchable. Beneath that control, though, was exhaustion, heartbreak, and at times, physical pain. During the interview, Sam finally admitted it. There were days I could barely stand from the weight of it, emotionally, mentally, physically. But I never wanted people to see that. The director told me once that great acting isn't about showing everything. It's about knowing what to keep hidden. Hearing him say those words, now years later, felt like watching a curtain lift on one of the television's most private stars. It wasn't a scandal. It wasn't gossip. It was truth, raw, human truth. Fans realized just how much of himself Sam had poured into Outlander. Behind every tear, every whisper between Jamie and Claire, every moment of courage and heartbreak, there was a man carrying invisible weight and choosing not to let the world see it. At the end of the interview, the host asked if he regretted hiding so much of himself for so long. Sam paused, looked down, smiled softly. No, he said. It wasn't about hiding. It was about protecting something sacred. Some parts of us belong only to the story. The room went silent. And in that moment, the mystery that had once been hidden transformed into something else, a glimpse into Sam Heughan's soul. But the story didn't end there. In the days that followed, headlines exploded. Sam Heughan breaks. Silence on Outlander's hidden truth. The secret director's note that changed everything. Fans dissected every word of that interview. Yet few realized how much more there was beneath the surface. Soon after, Sam appeared on a podcast to elaborate. His voice was calm, reflective, almost nostalgic. That moment with the director he began happened during one of the hardest times of my life. It wasn't just about acting. It was about survival. He explained that in the early seasons, the emotional weight of Jamie Fraser began to blur into his own reality. The exhaustion, the pressure, the vulnerability, it all started to merge. There were times, he said quietly, when I didn't know if I was feeling Jamie's pain or my own. That was when the director's guidance became a lifeline, not a limitation. He wasn't telling me to fake anything, Sam clarified. He was teaching me how to protect myself, how to keep a part of Sam safe while giving everything to Jamie. He recalled one unforgettable day on set, one of Outlander's most harrowing scenes. He refused a stunt double. He refused extra breaks. When the final take ended, he collapsed in the corner, trembling and silent. The director walked over, placed a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "This is what I meant. You can't give them all of you. Save some for yourself." Those words became Sam's compass. From then on, he learned the art of controlled truth channeling emotion. So real it moved millions, but never letting it consume him completely. You have to go deep enough to touch something real, he said, but not so deep that you can't find your way back. It's a lesson only the most seasoned actors truly understand, one that leaves invisible scars. For fans, hearing this side of Sam was deeply moving. Many had admired his grace and power on screen, but few knew how much of that strength was born from pain, hidden just behind his eyes. When asked if he had ever been tempted to break that rule, to let it all go to show everything, Sam smiled thoughtfully. There were moments, he admitted, especially when the emotions were too big to contain. A part of me wanted to break on screen to show it all. But then I'd hear his voice again, "Don't show them the wound, let them feel it." That became my mantra. Listeners could feel the vulnerability in every word. This wasn't a celebrity giving polished sound bites. It was a man reflecting on how art had both healed and hurt him. The truth is, Sam said quietly, I've carried that lesson into life, not just acting. There are parts of ourselves the world doesn't need to see to believe in. Sometimes strength is quiet. Sometimes honesty is silence. Those words struck a chord far beyond the Outlander fandom. Social media filled overnight with messages of gratitude and empathy. He's not just talking about acting, one fan wrote. He's talking about being human. Industry peers chimed in too. Directors and co-stars praised his emotional discipline and humility. One crew member summed it up perfectly. Sam feels everything, but he never lets the world see him crumble. That's not coldness. That's strength. By revealing his long-kept secret, Sam didn't just shock the world, he redefined vulnerability in Hollywood. His confession wasn't scandalous. It was soulful. It reminded everyone that behind every perfect performance lies a private struggle, a truth held quietly beneath the spotlight. As the podcast drew to a close, the host asked one final question. If you could go back, would you still hide it? Sam smiled that familiar half-smile his fans know so well and replied softly, yes. Because sometimes what you don't show says more than anything you could ever say. And with that, the circle closed. The secret that once belonged to the director had become Sam's philosophy, a code of quiet resilience, artistry and grace. Because in the end, the greatest performances, like the greatest souls, are not defined by what we reveal, but by what we choose to keep sacred. As the lights dimmed in the studio and the microphones went silent, Sam lingered for a moment, his gaze drifting somewhere far beyond the room. There was a quiet peace in his expression, but also something else. A question perhaps left unspoken. Outside, the world was still buzzing with headlines and theories. Fans dissected every word, every pause, wondering if there was still more to the story. Another truth, another layer he hadn't yet revealed. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't, but Sam didn't seem burdened by it anymore. He simply stood, adjusted his jacket, and with that same calm voice that had once silenced a global audience, he said to no one in particular, some secrets aren't meant to be told, they're meant to be lived. Then he smiled the kind of smile that carries both closure and mystery, and walked away from the set into the soft light of a fading afternoon. Somewhere perhaps in another interview, another moment, years from now he might speak again. Or perhaps he never will. Because some truths, like the finest performances, are meant to linger unfinished, untold, and unforgettable.